so in front of you, each of you, is a microphone. If you want to speak, you need to hit the voice button. Now, I should have done that first. Thank you very much. You need to hit the voice button on the right. It'll go red, and that way we can pick up all of the comments today. We do have a hard stop at 10:30, and we do have a lot of items, good items for discussion today. Please use your mics when you're speaking. A debt of gratitude to Mr. Kennedy this morning. We all owe. I was at a breakfast meeting in Escondido this morning and thought this meeting started at 9:30. He informed me, why are you sitting here? We need to get down there. If I hadn't made it, Mr. Beebe would have been the chair this morning, so hence the debt of gratitude. With that, we will call the meeting to order, and I'll ask for the roll to be called.
Kimberly Thorner,
Present.
Jack Beebe,
Present.
Ann Baldridge,
Present.
Paul Bushy,
Here.
Jeff Acon,
Present.
James Gordon,
Present.
Diane Hansen,
Present.
Tom Kennedy,
I'm here.
Albert Lau,
Here.
Hector Martinez,
Present.
Dave McQueen, absent, Marty Miller,
Here.
Mark Roback,
Present.
Joel Stelzidi,
Here.
Mike Sims is absent, Oliver Smith,
Here.
so there is a quorum with 14 members present.
Thank you very much. So moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, and we do have a new member of the committee, Mr. Jeff Egan from North County Fire, and I've asked him to lead us in the pledge this morning.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, I think we are ready for the agenda review. Keen, are you going to go over that with us?
Thank you, Chair and committee members. No changes to the agenda. What you have before you is holding, but I did want to just take this opportunity, Chair, to introduce those at LAFCO who are with us today. So we have Erica Sellen, Michaela Peters, Dunu, Priscilla Mumpower, Carol Aroninen, and then our consultants, Adam Wilson, Chris Cade, and then legal counsel, Deputy Legal Counsel, Alice Gagarison. So again, no changes to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have committee member reports. I would actually use the chair's prerogative, and we have item 6 at the very end of the agenda, which is open expression, uniquely termed, where we can do committee member reports, and we'll save it till the end of the meeting so we can get right into the business items. First, we have item 4A, which is approval of the meeting minutes for December 16th.
So moved. Second, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Can we go all those in favor? Do we have to do roll call?
No roll call needed, everyone's present.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, this will make the meeting go faster. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, so minutes passed. And now we are on to item 4B, which is the update on the proposed Rainbow Water District, Municipal Water District, Fallbrook Public Utility District reorganizations. And Priscilla is going to lead us in this presentation.
Yes. Thank you, committee members. Good morning. Priscilla Mumpower, project manager for these reorganization proposals. So today before the committee is a complete draft report on the 2 reorganization proposals filed almost 3 years ago by the Fallbrook Public Utility District and Rainbow Municipal Water District, and done so at the unanimous direction of their respective governing boards. The draft report administratively bundles the 2 proposals together with the consent of the applicants, given the parallel interest of these agencies to concurrently detach from the County Water Authority and annex into the Eastern Municipal Water District. The draft report is being presented today for 3 specific purposes, as shown on the next slide. So today you'll hear directly from staff on the topics LAFCO staff believes warrant commission attention in making informed decisions on the proposals. You'll also hear directly from LAFCO staff on its analysis of these topics, including the critical assumptions, like how we assess significant or reliable. And today also provides a forum for the committee to discuss the draft report, seek clarifications, and should you collectively choose, make specific requests and/or recommendations to the commission in step with a final report making its way to the dais in June. Now, before I begin, I'd like to preface with 3 items as you take in the draft report today. So first, the draft report is complete with respect to including analysis of all the topics LAFCO staff believes are merited under statute and local policy, less recommendations. The recommendations will be added to the final version, and only after we've met our commitment to check in today with you all, the Special Districts Advisory Committee, later today with the City's Advisory Committee, as well as the ad hoc committee, which was formed specific for the proposed reorganizations. Second, the draft report does include 3 options LAFCO staff believes represent one of 3 reasonable outcomes that sync to different possible commission policy preferences and/or priorities. It would be reasonable to assume that the final recommendation from LAFCO staff will in all probability align with one of these specific options. Third, and for the benefit of being clear on expectations, while we may revise what's already in the draft report and possibly refine the possible options, we don't anticipate tackling any new topics at this point. We believe we've exhausted the topics that merit attention on our end, and we will await any further direction once the items are on the dais. So these prefaces aside, and for the benefit of drilling down on the topics we anticipate generating the most discussion and in some cases disagreement, I'm going to go ahead and focus in my presentation on 18 ancillary topics as shown on the next slide. Actually on the next 2, but you'll come to see all 18, that we've addressed in the draft report per our policy L107 that directs staff to disclose and evaluate known jurisdictional or policy disputes. So all of these topics merit committee's attention, so I'm going to go through each of them in short order, and I'll try to summarize briefly. So I'm going to combine number 1 and 2, beginning with Met's position on the detachments as well as SDAC's position on the detachments. Met has remained agnostic to the reorganization proposals and marked by a letter submitted to LAFCO in September 2020. With respect to SDAC, they have not submitted any comments to LAFCO on the proposed detachments, and as such, staff believes it's reasonable to assume there are no direct conflicts to the detachments tied to both of these agencies. With respect to financial differences between roll-offs and detachments, so number 3 on the screen, the ad hoc committee formed for the proposed reorganization tasked a working group to independently address the topic and specifically address the key differences between roll-off and detachment with regard to the financial impacts to the County Water Authority. The working group concluded that the impacts of detachment and roll-off are different in that an agency that rolls off is still a member agency of the San Diego County Water Authority, and as such will be contributing to future cost increases and rates set by the County Water Authority Board. However, a detachment, once complete, means that the member agency is no longer a member agency of the County Water Authority and will not be contributing to future costs. That is, unless an exit fee is conditioned by LAFCO for a certain time period. Further, the working group did recommend that the revenue impacts of a roll-off be further assessed as part of a municipal service review on the County Water Authority. With respect to number 4 on the screen, the impact of the detachments on the County Water Authority's credit rating. So given Standard & Poor's own observation on the topic, staff believes it is reasonable to assume that detachments would impact the County Water Authority's credit rating. However, the impact would be less than significant given 1, several other factors contribute to the Standard & Poor's rating. And 2, the impact focuses on financial considerations, which presumably would be controlled via an exit fee. With respect to the financial impacts from detachment, or number 5 on the screen. While both applicants and the County Water Authority submitted their own estimates to Dr. Hanneman, Dr. Hanneman in his final report calculates a total net revenue loss to the County Water Authority, and by extension the remaining member agencies, at $12.6 million each year for the first 10 years or the short run. Thereafter, $10.9 million annually, beginning after the 10th year or the long run. LAFCO staff proceeded to then calculate individual cost impacts for remaining member agencies and their ratepayers using equivalent meter units and using this $12.6 million valuation. In doing so, staff estimates the remaining member agencies' ratepayers would experience an average increase to their water bills of $26.41 annually and $2.20 monthly. This, of course, varies across the member agencies. So, as a baseline, we have the City of San Diego, which is the largest member agency of the County Water Authority. As staff estimates, the annual and monthly increase to the City of San Diego ratepayers will be $12.60 and $1.05 respectively. So $12.60 annually and $1.05 monthly. In contrast, we have the smallest member agency being Uema Municipal Water District. Staff estimates that their ratepayers will experience an annual and monthly increase of $224.56 annually and $18.71 monthly. A breakdown of all member agencies and the impacts are within the agenda report for your review. Now that we have those numbers, we'll move on to number 6. So how do we assess the significance of these numbers or the financial impacts to the County Water Authority and their ratepayers? So LAFCO staff believes assessing the overall significance on the calculated financial impacts relative to inflation serves as a reasonable and certain measurement for purposes of this analysis. Staff has focused in on a 1-year inflation rate rather than a multi-year inflation rate, and this is to align with Dr. Hanneman's analysis of a 1-year analysis. Now the current inflation rate sits at 6.4%, so staff took this number and then focused in on 2 sub-measurements. 1, the annual net revenue impact to County Water Authority at $12.58 million, which represents 4.4% of the County Water Authority's 2023 gross water sales revenue. And 2, average annual ratepayer impacts among the member agencies of $26.41 represents a 3.6% increase in ratepayer charges. So notably, a 4.4% impact to the County Water Authority and a 3.6% impact to the ratepayers are below the 6.4% one-year inflation rate and therefore reasonably considered to be insignificant. Now, despite this conclusion, LAFCO staff believes that justification to apply an exit fee remains warranted. So what are the merits and options to imposing an exit fee and/or other payments? LAFCO staff believes it is sufficiently reasonable to require an exit fee on the applicants should the detachments proceed. And this conclusion aligns with the uniformly accepted acknowledgement from all sides, albeit with different estimates, that the detachments will result in unavoidable financial impacts to the County Water Authority in the near term. Now, with respect to options, LAFCO staff believes the focus of the exit fee should be on mitigating this annual net revenue loss of $12.58 million. So while member agencies have requested LAFCO impose exit fees, including dedicated payments over a longer period for their proportionate share of outstanding long-term debt obligations, this does appear to be impractical and unreasonable, as staff believes any exit fees set to also recover outstanding debt over the same time period would appear as double counting. So now that we've established that we believe it is warranted to proceed with an exit fee, how do we identify the appropriate length of an exit fee? So number 8 on your screen. Dr. Hanneman advised LAFCO and the ad hoc committee that a reasonable length of period to apply an exit fee would be between 3 and 10 years. He further advised that a term beyond 10 years would be unreasonable. So drawing from this parameter, it appears 5 years is a good and reasonable benchmark. This is further supported by the ad hoc working group, who noted that future cost allocations are best predicted using a 5-year period. We'd also like to note that urban water management plans set to support long-term resources are prepared every 5 years, just as municipal service reviews by LAFCO are prepared every 5 years. With respect to LAFCO's authority, or number 9 on the screen, to require exit fees and assessing the County Water Authority Act and our own act, the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act. While the applicants have consistently in their comments said that the County Water Authority Act does not contemplate the imposition of exit fees, and instead only provides the continued payment of property taxes to cover any remaining debts. LAFCO staff acknowledges this to be true. However, staff does not believe this precludes LAFCO from its authority in statute to condition approval on payment of an exit fee. So now that we've established the exit fee and the length of that exit fee, we've also have concerns that have been brought up with respect to the ESP North County pump station and whether it would be reasonable to discount the exit fee based on this project. So this topic was assessed and discussed at length by the group formed by the ad hoc committee. The working group then identified $21 million, which was budgeted by the County Water Authority in 2010 for the ESP North County pump station. The County Water Authority separately referenced a cost of approximately $40 million in a September 2020 response to LAFCO. In assessing both numbers, staff believes the discount of $21 million, which was included in the budget by the County Water Authority, would be reasonable. Now pivoting over to a different topic. So the risks to applicants in greater reliance on the Sacramento Bay Delta, as well as, and I'm going to combine these two, the risk to applicants in changes to net wholesale rates. So Dr. Hanneman has advised that there are potential risks to applicants and their ratepayers with respect to increased reliance on the Bay Delta. However, he specifically concludes that while the applicants may face challenges in switching wholesale suppliers, the challenge ultimately rests in paying a higher price than they had anticipated to get by in a drought, rather than that of running out of water. Notably, he asserts that the applicants are taking a financial gamble. With respect to detachment's impact on County Water Authority's voting power at MET, if the applicant's service areas are detached from the County Water Authority, the weight of the authority's vote will be reduced by 1,021 votes. And the weight of Eastern's vote will correspondingly increase. This would substantively result in a 0.3% transfer of voting power at MET from the County Water Authority to Eastern Municipal Water District. Now, in assessing the significance of the 0.3% transfer in voting power, LAFCO staff reviewed the last 900 plus votes of the MET board during the last 10 years. Within this period, there have only been 3 votes in which the decision was within the margin of voting rights of 0.3%, which would be shifted. One of these votes involved the appointment of the current MET GM, which creates an outlier in assessing the significance associated with the vote transfer, given the possibility of repeating in the future with the aid of approving the detachments. With respect to the detachment's effect on pure water and other reuse projects, the proposed reorganization does not appear to have any material direct impacts to the City of San Diego Pure Water Project or any other regional reuse projects, such as the Pure Water Oceanside or East County Advanced Water Purification. With respect to number 15 and contemplating emergency supplies during a catastrophic event, LAFCO staff believes that MET's existing emergency response plan of restoring service within 14 days, paired with Eastern Municipal Water District's ability to provide potable water service in an emergency, provides sufficient assurances that risks are reasonably controlled. LAFCO would like to separately note that both applicants, Rainbow Municipal Water District and Fall Brook Public Utility District, have a combined local water storage of over 2,000 acre feet, which is equivalent to 73 days of average day demands without recharge. With this in mind, it provides additional assurances of continued service to their ratepayers during an emergency. With respect to number 16, effects of the stipulated CEQA settlements on LAFCO, staff maintains that there are no material impacts on the Commission's decision-making and related discretion under CEQA, given LAFCO is not a party to the stipulated judgments. Accordingly, and as advised by Commission Counsel, LAFCO is not bound by these stipulated judgments. With respect to determining the affected territory for election purposes, staff, as advised by Commission Counsel, maintains that an election within the affected territory may be held. However, expanding the election to include all voters within the County Water Authority is not an option, given the County Water Authority requesting non-district status under CKH and the guidance provided under the County Water Authority's Principal Act. The Commission, however, may choose to expand the election to include voters within the jurisdictional boundary of Eastern Municipal Water District. Lastly, and number 18, the role of agriculture in these proposals and LAFCO's decision-making. A central premise to the applicant's detachment proposals has been providing economic relief to their agricultural customers by securing less expensive water supplies from Eastern Municipal Water District. They estimate the economic relief to be 26% which involves the current all-in acre-foot charge between the County Water Authority and the Eastern Municipal Water District. So the cost saving does loom significant for both of these applicants, as agricultural customers presently represent 36% of all retail sales in Fallbrook and 65% of all retail sales in Rainbow. Although independent, LAFCO is expected via statute to encourage planned, well-ordered, efficient urban development patterns while concurrently providing for the preservation of agriculture and open space lands. This includes specific consideration of the effects of jurisdictional changes on agriculture. Relatedly, San Diego LAFCO recently updated its implementing policies relevant to preserving agriculture in September of 2020. And among other items, added a section to enhance agriculture in San Diego County. Staff believes it is reasonable and due to the substantive tie in state statute as well as our own local policy to treat agriculture as unique and or a protected group. And in doing so, make special accommodations as the commission may deem appropriate. So with all of that, committee, this concludes the summary of the draft agenda report. I, as well as Keen, Adam, Chris, Alex, are here to answer any questions as you see fit. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Priscilla. That was an excellent presentation, very succinct, thoughtful, well laid out, so appreciate that. Before we start with committee comments, I think we need to go to public comment on this item. Do we have any public comments on this item?
I have not received anything for this item.
Do we need to ask if anyone's online that wishes to speak? We do not?
No,
Okay.
we do have one.
We do? Okay.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Mr. Haddam.
Thank you. My name is Mark Haddam. I'm special counsel for the San Diego County Water Board. Thank you for the chance to speak. These three organizations work hard for the majority of the county and should not be recommended by this committee. There are many reasons why, but I cover just a few here. First, all county water ratepayers are being asked to pay for a Fallbrook Rainbow exit. The staff report tries to downplay this by claiming on page 41 that having the rest of the county pay an extra 4.4% per year is, quote, below the one-year inflation rate of 6.4% and therefore reasonably considered insignificant, end quote. The statement is frankly amazing. Most of our county's ratepayers do not believe that 6% inflation is insignificant, or that county ratepayers who already pay for systemic inflation and higher water rates won't care that another 5% is added on top of that inflation so that Rainbow and Fallbrook can leave the county. But we believe staff's numbers are too low. Even on their numbers, your agency's ratepayers are being asked to pay an extra $10 to $12 million each and every year for many decades. A short-term exit fee does not solve this problem. You should not bless this subsidy by your ratepayers to Fallbrook and Rainbow. Second, our county's important voting rights in metropolitan would be handed to a Riverside County agency, which has regularly fought against net rate refund for your ratepayers. LAFCO staff says on pages 46 and 47 that only 3 Met votes would have changed over the past 10 years, though one of those votes was critical for a new general manager. Staff fails to identify the other 2 votes or detail the recency of the 3 votes. Also, the import of the lost voting rights will be increasing as land values in Fallbrook and Rainbow rise. You should not support losing our county's net voting rights, which is a mandatory result if these new organizations are approved. Third, the staff report on page 45 quotes LAFCO expert Dr. Hanneman and the Bay Delta Watermaster as both saying there would be additional pressure on the Delta from these reorganizations. This result would be contrary to express state policy in Water Code section 85021. Staff has repeatedly refused to study this critical issue, despite it being called out for over
you, Mr. Haddam. Do we have any other public comments? No. Okay. So with that, the action item is actually a recommendation that we review and discuss the report. We had a thorough staff report. We've only had 2 days to look at it. I will say thank you, though. One of my comments originally was to release this early enough so that we would have time to digest it. And I realize you're not taking this to commission until June, so this does give a very adequate time period to digest it. So thank you guys for accommodating that request. With that, I'm going to open it up to any of the committee members that would like to comment. Mr. Miller.
I would let Paul go if he'd like to comment first.
Paul, did you raise your hand? I'm sorry, I can't, the screens are higher. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bushy.
I just had, first of all, this is a very comprehensive report, and that was a really comprehensive presentation, but I echo Kim's comments that it was very succinct and well done. When I looked at the report, there's been, as you said, it's been a pretty exhaustive study for, it looks like, about 3 years now. And if I understand kind of what one of the potential options here is, it's option Y, is that the commission hold consideration of the proposals until the completion of the MSR. I really wonder whether that's a viable option here. I just think any delay in this, I think this one's been extremely well analyzed. There's been a ton of LAFCO and resources, both dollars and staff time from all the parties involved. So my comment on that would be, is that really a viable option at this point in time?
Did staff want to address that, or do we want to?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we did include this just because, one, it's been brought up several times during our meetings that perhaps an MSR would be appropriate. It also would be an appropriate recommendation, or not recommendation, option to the commission, in that perhaps they would want to prioritize further analysis on the county water authority and their financial situation, their rate structure, all of these other ancillary items that have been brought up throughout this process before they make a decision on detaching two agencies and evaluating that impact, which I also believe we've done that here, but perhaps the commission would think otherwise and would want something a little more thorough provided on the county water authority.
And I concur with that. I served on the sub-work group, and that was one of the issues when we were looking at the effects of roll-off versus the effects of detachment, and the fact of them potentially, if this goes through, hitting at the same time, and what the effects on the water authority would be. And so I think that option Y was derived from those concerns. I can concur with that as well. Paul, did you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, I've got Mr. Miller and Mr. Scalzetti.
Thank you, Chair Thorner. In the age of transparency, I'd like to make known that I'm representing the Vista Irrigation District, but I'm also a San Diego County Water Authority member, along with Tom and Jack, and former member Chris Cage, who I see now is part of the LAFCO team. As such, and Joe, I forgot Joe, he's on the end down there. I forgot Joe, he's on the Water Authority too. And as such, I'm also a Metropolitan Water Director. So I just want you all to realize that I have 3 positions and I hear a lot. I congratulate Chris on his new work here at LAFCO. I'm a little surprised that he's on the consultant list, as he was privy to a lot of information in closed sessions at both the city and the water authority, which may or may not be important, but I congratulated him being here. I consider him one of my water friends, just like Tom and Jack and Joel and Kim we're all friends, and whatever I say today, I hope we can keep that friendship, because it has nothing to do with business. Representing Vista, I am a ratepayer. I'm not a former general manager. I'm not a general manager. I'm a basic ratepayer. I get a bill just like everybody else does. At a board meeting about 6 months ago, we were discussing a rate increase, not just on pass-throughs or on our meter charge, but we were taking a step for probably the first time in 10 years to add actual money to the cost of water. We had about an hour and a half knockdown, drag-out debate over adding 16 cents onto a unit of water. It was really important in our community because we are not Rancho Santa Fe, nothing wrong with Rancho Santa Fe, but we're not a rich community by any means. I don't know that call us disadvantage, but we're definitely not on the higher tier. But we debated ad nauseum over 16 cents. And now we're talking about adding $2 a month. We have 30,000 meters. Now, as was said by staff, and I appreciate all the work staff's done, you guys have had a hard task. But at 30,000 meters at $2 is what we pay, that ends up being $720,000 a year forever. It's not insignificant. Even if our cost was a little less, it's just not insignificant. I was talking to my general manager yesterday, and he was telling me that through buying or having Oceanside treat 1,400 acre feet of water at the waste treatment plant saved us $240,000 a year, and he was very proud of that. Well, $720,000 is a lot more than 240. And the problem is it's not a one-time fee, it goes on forever. So I think we need to keep in mind that what one might call insignificant, another will call significant. We're asking 3 million ratepayers in San Diego County to subsidize Fallbrook and Rainbow's exit. At the Met, I can tell you that the Met today is a different Met than it was 3 years ago. The hiring of that manager, that little bit of 3 or 4% vote was huge. The Met is going in a completely different direction. We have a new chair. And San Diego, as far as their vote goes, has been a pariah for the last 10 or 15 years at Met. So when you say that there was no significant votes, you're correct. San Diego got its butt kicked in every vote for 10 years. The close votes now are very important. The spread is important. We elected a general manager on a couple of tenths of a percentage vote. And we sit now up there where San Diego's vote means something. The tide has turned and we have new direction up there. I expect to see a lot of votes that go down to the wire on very important issues. The Delta is going to provide our water this year. As we know, the Delta has been submerged in water. And as long as the levee doesn't break, we'll be getting most of our water from there. As you all know, that the Colorado is under severe pressure to cut back, even though we're having good water here. So we are going to see more water from the Delta. And moving the Fallbrook and Rainbow to Eastern will have pressure on the Delta. Now, is it catastrophic this year? No, it's not. We're going to have plenty of water. But over time, as we've seen, one wet year does not stop the water shortages. So I think in the report, the water master said it would have pressure on the Delta. As far as repairing an emergency repair, I have not seen anything, any study that has shown that the Baltimore can respond and correct a repair in 14 days. If it's out there, I think we deserve to see that. Because what's going to happen is in the Delta, I just came off the trip, their main concern is the Delta is levee failure. One earthquake away, there will be no water from the Delta. We already know we're under stress from Colorado, but the San Diego Water Authority has senior rights through IID on the Colorado. Cuts will come, yes, but cuts to San Diego Water Authority will be as protected as you possibly can get. We get 280,000 acre feet from the Colorado River through Line and then the QSA. We get 50,000 acre feet from DSAL. So we project a 360,000 acre feet budget this year. That's 30,000 acre feet reliable on outside sources from the Met. So if anything tragically happens up there, it's going to directly affect Eastern and the other agencies. Allocation has not been put aside yet from the Metropolitan. That's going to be a decision made on hydrology over the next couple of months. I can't tell you right now, at this moment, what allocation will do to ag customers. I do know that it's going to cut water back to residential customers to 55 gallons a day, and it's going to cut M&I probably in half. I can't see that there's not going to be a effect on that. So there is some risk for them to move to Eastern in that aspect. I defer to somebody else if they'd like to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And Mr. Kate, a question about your role. Give you an opportunity to address that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good to see Mr. Miller and all my other water friends as well too from my time on the board of the Water Authority. Appreciate seeing you, and yes, disagreements are okay, but come away friends is absolutely. There's been reference to the potential of my having access to privileged information during closed session discussions during the Water Authority. I would like to be known that when I became an alternate and this matter was coming forward to LAFCO at the time as an alternate on the LAFCO board, subsequently became a voting member of LAFCO. I sent an email to then General Counsel Mark Haddam indicating that I would be recusing myself from all privileged, closed session, confidential conversations at the Water Authority to maintain my status as a potential voting on this when I was on the LAFCO board. So I have not been privy to any confidential information whatsoever from the Water Authority's perspective on this matter. And so my coming to be a consultant on LAFCO and working on this matter is not conflicting me out by utilizing any privileged information from CWA for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Scalzetti, and then we'll go to Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going through this process and recognizing as a water agency our different challenges of being competitive and doing what we can for our ratepayers to create not only sources of water, but different challenges we have. Some agencies have storage and reservoirs, some agencies have groundwater, some agencies, we all have different challenges, so we're not all the same character in some instances. And so going through this process and kind of weighing the pros and cons of the Water Authority and the pros and cons of my member agencies and the difficulties that are going to probably end up, no one's going to be happy with any of the decisions that are going to be made. So I really, I believe that my member agencies should be kind of looking at the same things that all of us are doing, is looking for another source of water. That being said, I believe that they should be able to buy a source of water, an alternate source of water, but not leave the team. Just as the Water Authority does. We go out and look for other options and other sources of water and kind of meld them into our rate. So I would hope that beyond putting every pressure on everybody in Southern California, these voting things and different agencies, that the Water Authority staff could come up with some options for these agencies to roll off and get another alternate source. And I don't know if that looks like a take or pay from the Water Authority, so they can keep buying water from them and meld with another source of water. I think that is the only fair way to kind of make a happy medium for everybody. So in retrospect of seeing, well, this is really going to help these two agencies, I believe it'll benefit these agencies in the future as they build out into residential instead of rural, and it's just inevitable it's going to happen at one point. So that would be more consistent in other challenges from agencies that we're going to have with people rolling off. Maybe they fit in the same bucket as other agencies as my agency, we're gonna roll off. The city of San Diego, we're gonna roll off a little bit. So why wouldn't these agencies be able to roll off and find another alternate source of water and buy so much from them, but still pay into the water authority and be part of the water authority? I think that's only a fair thing. So I can't support the detachment, but I really, really encourage our CWA staff and our agency's colleagues to get back at the table and not impact everybody in Southern California, but try to come to an agreement because we are on the same team.
Thank you, Mr. Scassetti. Mr. Martinez.
Yes, Hector Martinez, South Bay Irrigation District. We have the lowest income population in the region. We are not very happy with the things that we're seeing with the County Water Authority. I find it very interesting to listen to the attorney say that they're concerned about the increase, 6%, I think is what he said, when the County Water Authority is, it feels like they're threatening us with a 43% readiness to serve charge and the 14% that all of you know. I don't understand how somebody can say something like this. I am in support, and I think that I don't want to repeat what a lot of you have already said. If somebody's not happy, why should we force somebody to stay, and pay what we're having to pay, when we have worked so hard to be reliable and to have a good system? If somebody is not happy and they want to leave, and we have LAFCO here that is a neutral party, they studied the heck out of this situation. I trust LAFCO. I know that they did their homework. I've read the reports. I've listened to all the testimony. I don't think it's necessary to keep dragging this on. So I'm ready to vote for this, in favor of it. Just like staff said, I don't think that or like the report says, I don't think that it's more than inflation. It's not significant. It's insignificant is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Lau.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. So with that said, I just representing Solana Beach and Ranch Santa Fe, I have to say we're in the middle of a rate case. Our customer do care about what's going on in the water bill. So, and trust me, they do show up at our board meeting, and every dollar does count. They don't get rich by accident. So with that said, it's more of a question for staff here. In your calculation in terms of impact to agency, are those gross impact or no net impact after accounting for the exit fee being paid to the water authority?
So the calculation that we did was based on the meter equivalent units counts. We looked at the 5-year average of the value of the 5-year averaged that out on an annual basis, and then divided that by the actual number of meters that we had in the region to get the actual impact of that amount. So it is a gross amount, not looking at their net cost or the net value less any other cost on individual agencies.
Okay, so that kind of leads to my next question. So in effect, if that exit fee were to pay to the water authority, and the water authority would return that to the member agency, what would be the net impact to the member agencies?
That would be up on how the water authority would want to split those costs, and based on what each of the farm agreement will pay. So whether that's through IAC charges, whether that's through the variable costs, that would all be different. Not to mention the fact that currently CWA is going through a review of their rate structures and trying to move from more variable revenues to the fixed side. So once that happens, we're not quite sure how they're going to have their charges split out and how that will eventually make its way back to the individual member agencies.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's kind of actually important data, at least from an analysis point of view. Obviously, no one likes ratepayer impact in any shape or form. Speaking from experience, I just, like I said, I spend more time in closed session these days, my open session, my board meetings, mostly on rates. So with that said, I think, again, having this, on one side of it, we're talking about, have following the rainbow paying exit fee as part of the detachment process, paying to the water authority, and at the same time, their detachment would have ratepayer impact on member agencies. I think it would be appropriate to look at the net impact as a result of returning that exit fee to the ratepayers, to the member agencies. Based on kind of what I'm seeing. The other question I have, and I think Chair alluded to a little earlier, on the MSR view on the water authority, I'm still a bit unclear in terms of what benefit that would have. Would that provide additional baseline of financial impact in terms of more updates, or are there other organizational reasons perhaps the chair or the staff can provide additional clarity?
I'll let Keen answer this one.
So the premise, Al, to that good question, which is, okay, what would be the value for us to hit pause at LAFCO and do a service review, complete a service review on the County Water Authority? Would be premised on the idea that, hey, if the and Priscilla mentioned this in her comments, but if the commission determines that there's too much interties to independently extract the analysis just to the impacts of Fallbrook and Rainbow beyond, let's say, the rate issue, and decided, you know what, with County Water Authority overall and some issues that were flagged by Dr. Hammond, and let's be blunt, right? So what Dr. Hammond said is their business model has some concerns for him. And so that has fed us to do this MSR, at least put it on our schedule. The idea is perhaps the commission may want to just hit pause on everything related to water and related to the County Water Authority. Look at that entity and then come back to seeing if that has any material ties to Fallbrook or Rainbow. I think there is merit to that approach. And again, I know that there are people, organizations who have advocated for that. Let's hit a pause and look at this holistically. And some have used, I think maybe appropriately, how LAFCO tackled fire protection in the early 2000s, where there was, one-offs occurring with individual fire protection districts about their ability to stay in business, if you will. And instead of just going down this one-off approach, the commission back then said, we're going to stop this, we're going to do a macro and a micro study, and eventually that led to the creation of the County Fire Protection District. I don't know if that's a perfect parallel, but it is a reasonable parallel to why we think the option has merit, along with the other two options, which, just to spell it out, one of the options is, hey, let's go ahead and approve this proposal with a condition of an exit fee based on that 5-year term at $12.6 million. The other option on the other extreme is to say, you know what, there's too many externalities. They're not necessarily the fault of Fallbrook and Rainbow, but let's just disapprove this proposal now without any prejudice, i.e., there are other things going on than the merits of Fallbrook and Rainbow's proposal. So those are the three options. They all have merit, and as Priscilla mentioned, I think it's certainly reasonable that staff is going to land on one of these three in the next 30 or 40 days when we produce the final.
Keen, for clarification, are you underway with an MSR on the Water Authority right now, or soon to be? I thought that was...
Yes. So it is scheduled. We have looked at bringing in consultants, but no actual work on that MSR has started as of today.
Is it scheduled within the next year?
Yes.
It is. Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of, well, maybe one question and then maybe a comment. And I will preface my comments by saying I'm not part of a water authority. I am a healthcare district. So, but do we have any precedent for setting an exit fee in the past? And the reason I ask that is because I thought that I read that the act doesn't necessarily require us to, or there isn't necessarily a requirement to have an exit fee, but just wondered if there was any precedent.
So this is a unique proposal. What we have done in the past is require, for example, the Deer Springs Fire Protection District. We had an annexation a few years ago to the city of Escondido. James and his group said, hey, we've been planning on whatever development and building fees come out of this to go to our coffers. So an example, we did apply essentially a detachment fee to the city of Escondido to pay to the Deer Springs Fire Protection District. Certainly not at the level of analysis at that has taken place here. It was more, okay, what were you expecting, Escondido, are you good with that? Here's the number. This has been a discussion that has been years in the making. And again, the idea is the net revenue impact that Dr. Hanneman came up with is what staff is using. Now, Dr. Hanneman had a separate thought in his own final report about a different type of exit fee, which would be based on the county water authority's annual obligations to what are referred to as QSA, or essentially the Imperial Irrigation District contract charge to the water authority. As we detailed in the report, it just seems like net revenue impact is easier for everyone to kind of grasp and quantify. So that's why we went with this option rather than trying to go with Dr. Hanneman's quantitative settlement agreement water charge.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. My only other comment is that as the CEO of a healthcare district, I am on a daily basis looking for cost savings. And in this conversation, fully appreciate the thoroughness of the report, because it helps me as an outsider really to understand a little bit more clearly the issues at hand. And when I look at the responsibilities of those districts, I think they're trying to do the best thing for their district and for their taxpayers within that district. So we went through an effort to refund bonds at one point, so I understand the credit rating, all of the bond-related issues, but we were able to provide cost savings to our taxpayers in that process. And so, I have to say that it's not Rainbow and Fallbrook's, in my opinion, responsibility to manage for the rest of the county. So, yeah, just a comment. Absolutely appreciate everything you have to say, Mr. Miller. Your comments, hit home. Appreciate what you had to say. But I'm falling on the side of, they're doing the right thing. They're making a prudent business decision from my perspective. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Mr. Bushy?
Yeah, just one suggestion, more of a follow-up to Mr. Lau's comments, is that perhaps the report, if LAFCO's leaning towards an exit fee, that you do have kind of a net impact on the rates, because I think that clearly, at least for a 5 to 10 year period, whatever's determined, kind of inflates the gross impact on the remaining member agency rates that could be partially or largely offset with the exit fees. So that my suggestion would be to update the report to do that, because as I listen to all the different, again, we're a wastewater agency, we do a little bit of recycled water, so we're not a member of the water authority. It would seem to me, to follow up on Mr. Scalzi's comments, that any of the water agencies who are seeking alternate water sources, buying less water from the water authority, there'd be a spread effect operationally on that, even if they're still paying some of the capital ownership-based fees. So, and as I think further, if Fallbrook and Rainbow are not allowed to leave the water authority, does that mean that once you join the water authority, you're there forever? There's no potential way to leave the organization. So I'll just leave it with those comments.
Thank you, Mr. Bushy. Ms. Baldridge?
Thank you. I'm not from a water district either, but I do have a question. As a resource conservation district, we work really closely with farmers, and agriculture was touched upon in Mr. Miller's comments and the staff report as well. And I wondered if you would be able to give us a little bit more information about how the proposed changes would affect ag. I know both Fallbrook and Rainbow have a considerable proportion of agricultural customers. I think, the change might lead to a more potentially reliable source, but I wondered if you could tell us more.
Very good. So, yeah, and that's why one of the 18 items that staff came up with is what is the relationship between this particular set of proposals in agriculture, and the context being under LAFCO law and our policies, we do give weighted interest to preserving and, by way now of policy, encouraging agriculture. So in this particular line of thinking, staff has concluded that yes, there's going to be this $2 or so average impact on the rest of the county. However, given these directives on statute and again now on local policy, if the commission wants to go there, I think that's the justification. That yes, we acknowledge there's an impact, but you know what? In order to have a sustained and thriving agricultural community where we're producing our own food for the region, maybe we do have to make that acknowledgement and go forward if that's what the commission prioritizes, right? So they can prioritize a whole lot of different policy premises on this. One might be the opposite, which Marty Miller brought up, is, hey, on a whole, everyone is watching their budget, and perhaps the commission will say, hey, 4% is significant. We're not going to call it insignificant. Now, that's staff's wording that we use in inflation. The commission may decide differently. But that said, most districts, I'm assuming, have some kind of policy, like your own, where you perhaps make some accommodations to encourage or help the ag community. I think when you look at a jurisdictional proposal like this, maybe that's what staff is suggesting. Hey, commission, if this is where you want to go, I think you certainly have, and as EO, I certainly believe there is merit under the law and statute to say we can make this accommodation because it is a unique or protected group, ag, even though it is going to impact perhaps even the majority of San Diegans. Okay.
Thank you, Keen. Any other comments? I have Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Beatty.
As long as everybody else is included.
Oh, before we go, Mr. Egan.
Thank you. I'm not going to pretend that I know every detail about this plan, and this is my first meeting. So I'll just speak generally about what I know. And I know that I'm a grower, a small grower, albeit, but I do grow avocados. The once avocado capital of the world is where I live. We're that in name only and now, but I nevertheless am aware of different qualities of water, different sources. One is much higher in salinity and chlorides, and does affect my trees. And even given the newer rootstock that are really developed to do better with those, they still do have an impact. So there's a difference in water quality. To Mr. Boucher's question, I think it was a rhetorical question. Once joining an organization, are you allowed to leave? It very well may not be a rhetorical question. It may be a question, are you allowed to leave? Or are you allowed to leave, but with an onus on you that it makes that cost prohibitive? I can only speak to what I know about fire districts. And I know there's a lot of consolidation among fire districts recently, particularly in Orange County. It's also happened in San Diego County. I believe I wouldn't say my worldview, but my general political view here is that local decisions are made best by local individuals. I appreciate that I belong to an independent North County Fire Protection District, and we make our own decisions. Now, granted, I realize that this is a different animal. You belong to a parent organization, and so there are restrictions and there are decisions made at a higher level. But I do just watch this process and listening to, you know, there's been apparently an exhaustive process. Some might call it exhausting, but it seems to me that this has been going on for some time, and I think to Mr. Martinez's point, it does seem time to make a decision on this. And so, given my limited knowledge on the subject, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Mr. Kennedy. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roback and then Mr. Miller. Is that clock accurate? Are we already at 10? Okay, all right, you will get to speak, I promise.
All right, so I was first elected to a water district 27 years ago, and you know, my perspective is, you know, business, and the purpose of LAFCO is to deliver government services in the most cost-effective way possible. That's really the mission. And some years ago, Fallbrook and Rainbow came before LAFCO. It wasn't on the committee then, and there was a proposed consolidation, and the LAFCO report said they would save, you know, about $2.5 million a year. They did an administrative consolidation for about a year. And then it got sideways once it went to the full LAFCO board. And the way it went sideways when it went before the full LAFCO board is, and it's going to happen here too, a little preview of this, they're going to be lobbied to vote one way or the other. That's the way politics work at all levels. But, you know, back to what's at hand here, you know, I was in full support back then, because I'm for government efficiency, as I think we all are. And, you know, why that went sideways between Fallbrook and Rainbow, I just said why it went sideways, but it actually had some other, you know, dynamics too. But I'm glad to see that Fallbrook and Rainbow now are doing the right thing for the ratepayers. So they're trying to make a decision that they think best suits, you know, their constituents. And you know, when you interview any water ratepayers, they would tell you three things: they want water safely, reliably, at the lowest possible cost. Right? That's what they want. Period. And that's what the water district should be delivering. So, you know, I'm looking up at this, you know, incredible room, this artwork from the 1930s, and as you can see there, back in the day, you know, water really flowed down the mountains, and it was all very, very happy. And in that first panel there, and I'll just leave it at this, where he's got a stringer of fish here. At this point, I want to take a vote. I want full LAFCO board to take a vote. Fish or cut bait. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roback. Mr. Miller.
Thanks for a second bite at the apple. You have 18 items up there. I can't keep my mind straight on 18 items ever. You know, there's debate over the exit fee. We have to remember that as the 24 member agencies, we signed on to the ESP program debt, and I think the exit fee is more rationally applied to the fact that the two agencies are going to leave, are going to avoid paying that debt or up paying that debt. And I think that probably is a simplistic reason why there's an exit fee is that they get to walk away, pick their toys up and walk away, and we're left with the remaining end of it. The pump station theory, pump station definitely is a credit, but it's a credit to everybody. The ESP is a county-wide program, and we spent a lot of money raising the dam and doing things. And having one small facet of it not get done should be a credit to all the agencies, because we all paid into the ESP system. So saying just one facet of it is attributable to one area, in my opinion, as a layman, just doesn't seem to relate, because we, as all the agencies in the county, are paying for that ESP program. At the Metropolitan, I told you that it's a new world up there. This came up, detachment came up in a side comment at our last retreat, and the chair mentioned another agency in the Central Basin area talking about doing the same thing. So there's been comments that this won't set a precedent. but it will set a precedent. It will allow other agencies to take a look at their relationships and decide whether they want to stay within metropolitan or within center or within eastern, if they can get a better deal from their neighbor and walk on their former partners. So there is a worry that this will set a precedent. And there is a worry, if met, that this will lead to problems in the Metropolitan Water District. While the former GM, Jeff Geitlanger, said that they were neutral on it, I think that the water world changes. I don't think I know. The water changes every day. What we plan on today is going to change next year. The big savings today will not be the big savings tomorrow. The little cost today will not be the little cost tomorrow. Costs always go up, savings seem to dwindle. So the numbers we're using today are brought forward by staff, and I know they've done a lot of work on this. May or may not be the real number when all this clears out. But one thing will happen. The Water Authority will lose 8 to 10% of their water sales. And as Mr. Martinez said, 14% sounds unreasonable. When the Water Authority loses 30,000 acre-feet of water, that 14% may be 17 or 18%. So even though they're making a decision based upon what they're going to save, which is, I think it's a valid assumption. I think we all are looking for cheaper water. But what it's going to do is it's going to go beyond the $2 per person savings. It's going to reduce the Water Authority sales, and if you're in water, you know when your sales go down, your costs go up. So it will have an effect on future income for future rate increases, because those pipes don't care if they're full or half full. They have to be maintained. And if you get down to just 4 agencies getting their water from the Water Authority, what do you think that cost is going to do? Because you still have to maintain the whole system. So it will have an effect, and at the very least, while I'm opposed to this, at the very least, we should have a better feel for what the impacts are going to be on the Water Authority as a whole. And if that's another MSR on the Water Authority, at the very least, we should make sure that we don't kill the Water Authority. And as Director Martinez said, we don't like 14% now. Take away 50 or 60,000 acre-feet of Water Authority sales and see what it's going to cost you later. The $2 may be a drop in the bucket. Thank you. And I'll wait for my 2 friends here to rebut everything I said.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair Thorner. We want to make sure everybody else got a bite of the apple before we spoke on this. And I wanted to thank Priscilla, Keene, Adam, and Carol, and everyone else on the LAFCO staff and the work they've done on this. Almost 4 years ago, when we first met with the Water Authority, we had hoped to sit down and talk this out with them and not end up in a 3-year putting a burning paper bag on LAFCO's porch and ringing the doorbell and running away kind of situation. But that's where we are. So don't step on the bag. This is it. But I do appreciate the highlights that the report had on agriculture. As you indicated, Rainbow does sell 65% of our water to agriculture. I think we have 13 signalized intersections now. And we were the avocado capital of the world, as Jeff indicated. And that's going away. We've lost over 1 million trees in the last 15 years, tens of thousands of acres of avocado. I know avocado grows don't turn into homes, although it does indicate that in the report. Avocado grown on too steep of slopes for that. So one of the challenges we have every day is delivering water to our growers and keeping them in business. Agriculture is a cornerstone of our area. It's not just something people do on the side. Although Jeff's a hobby farmer, or a gentleman farmer, as we might say. It is the only real economic activity in Rainbow service area. We don't have shopping centers or car dealerships and things like that. That's it. And so it's important for us to try to preserve that. And I know that's important for the county and LAFCO policies. And one way that the county and LAFCO can express their support is by actually supporting things that could help actual farmers. Most of the farmers are in the north of the San Diego County. There are some in the East County as well. I don't want to sell my East County friends short, but North County dominates an agricultural field. One of the challenges we have with the interpretation of the staff with regard to the County Water Authority Act, which does prescribe how to leave the water authority, just as when you join, there's rules on how you join, there's rules on how you leave, and it says how you wind up the finances. LAFCO knows that. They've looked at it and said yes, and even though the significance may not be where it is, we decided to do another one. And I've asked LAFCO staff there, and I hope Alex can, at some point, we get the commission, have some sort of opinion on a review of the AVEC case, the Hamlet Valley East Current case, which was a case between water districts and detachment, and conditions imposed by LAFCO that the appellate court indicated that they don't have the authority to do so. I do know that none of us wanted to, one of the things we wanted to negotiate with the Water Authority, we didn't want to just walk out and pay, go scot-free, as Mr. Haddam is fond of saying. We understand that we don't want to leave our other member agencies in the lurch. We do believe that the calculation that Dr. Hanneman came to is a hair high. It is $10 to $12 million. We recognize there is an impact. But there's also savings that the Water Authority would include. Now, the Water Authority has indicated there are 0 O&M savings if we detach. And while I don't think that number is accurate, it does reflect the level of service that we received. And I think that it's important to recognize that above and beyond the pump stations, and there's 2 pump stations, one for Fall River, one for Rainbow, and the staff report has them at $21 million, and I'll let Sheriff Thorner address her study on that, but the Water Authority has submitted that they're $40 million and has confirmed that. So I think we need to look at that $21 million pretty carefully. If we detach, the Water Authority does not spend $40 million. If we stay in, they have to spend that $40 million, or else they'll find themselves in court with us, because we've been paying for those stations for the last 25 years. So I think that one is important. Also on the top of offsets, we've paid for approximately 6% of everything the Water Authority's ever spent over the last 75 years. And 6% of every pipeline that is south of us, which about 99% of the Water Authority's pipelines are south of us that we've never used, we bought and paid for. And the value of those is about $250 million at 6%. And so, we're leaving that behind for everyone else. We paid for them, we bought them for you guys, you get to keep them. The Water Authority has about $250 million in cash reserves. Our ratepayers contribute those cash reserves, our ratepayers sent them in, and we're not asking to get our share back. So each other member agency, their relative share of the cash reserves goes up as soon as we leave, right? But another one that's important, that the Water Authority in the Liebenheim Reservoir, which Ken is very familiar with, and the San Vicente Reservoir, they're holding about, as of their January water resources report, 111,000 acre feet of water in mostly carryover reserve, but some emergency storage project reserve, which were paid for, in part, at a program basis by our customers. At a retail sale rate, the Water Authority, that's about $200 million worth of water sitting there. We paid for it to put it in storage just in case we needed it. Now we're saying, you know what? We don't need it. You guys can keep it, but our share of that is worth about $10 million. So we're leaving another $10 million behind that's benefiting your agency directly. So there's more water for you later. And so to say that you don't have any benefits, it's important. And it also indicated about the debt. I recognize that the Water Authority has debt, and some of the emergency storage projects that are 25 years old, we've been paying on that debt for 20, 25 years, our share. But it's important for LAFCO and all the rest of these people at this committee and the commission to understand that each and every time the Water Authority issues debt, they have an official statement that goes with that debt. The Board of Directors adopts a resolution affirming the official statement, and contained within that official statement are 2 important facts. One is they put a statement there that says no member agency has any specific obligation to pay any portion of this debt. And that's in every single one of them, and in some cases it's in all caps. So, they need to put that in there because no one would ever approve this, because nobody, the Water Authority wants to spend $1 billion on something, people don't want to do it. Now, that might be one of the things that Dr. Hanneman notes, that it's a problem that maybe people should, before they approve big debt, say, yeah, all right, I'll pay my $100 million, as long as you pay your $100 million. But that's not how it works. It also indicates that no member agency has any obligation to buy any amount of water. And so, just as other people are building their own supplies roll off, if I found a miracle well in the San Luis Rey Valley somewhere and stopped buying water, my cost of the Water Authority would drop to near zero over a span of 3 or 4 or 5 years. So I think those are important things to consider in this. And it really comes down to being about fairness. You know, we're not trying to walk out the door and leave everybody in the lurch, but we're also not trying to leave our money on the table where it shouldn't be left, right? And water's hard right now. It's getting harder. But in our area, for us to maintain any kind of a situation with agriculture economy, with the costs are going, if we keep going at this rate, I won't be buying 13,000 acre feet. We won't have any rooms. I'll be buying 5,000 or 6,000 acre feet. My demand is going away from the water authority, one way or the other. So hopefully we can work this out.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Beebe.
Thank you. And you're going to see Chair Thorner stare blankly into space because she's tired of listening to me talk about this. And on that note, we are at the 3-year anniversary of our detachment, which is great. And I do really appreciate the report. It was really well done. While there are certain things obviously we don't agree with, I was actually concerned because it's a complicated topic that we get the report, we'd all have all these issues because it didn't make sense, and that's not the case. I think it's very clear, very well written, so I appreciate the efforts of LAFCO staff. I am a little concerned with the second item, which is the recommendation, or not recommendation, but second option, which is basically defer or punt on this, which is kind of an easy way for the commission to say no without saying no, and then sort of puts us on a Apollo program timeline where maybe 6-8 years from now, I may get to the 27-year Mark Roback timeline before we actually make a decision on it. So I think, the information's there. There's, I think, 11,000 pages, someone counted it, of information. The information's there. So hopefully, we can get to the point of deciding, can we move forward on this or not. And I want to focus a little bit on fairness because I think it's gotten lost in the mix a little bit. The CWA Act does clearly define how to leave. Fallbrook and Rainbow didn't just make this up and say, hey, we want to leave the water authority and there's no provision, right? We said, hey, we want to leave per the provisions of the Act. The Act, everyone that's part of the water authority agreed to. That Act was written a long time ago, that's correct, but it's been updated multiple times. That provision stayed as it was written. And I think it's important. In this report, which is one of the first times LAFCO acknowledged, yeah, there is language in that act. That language essentially says, hey, if you have debt secured by property tax, you continue to pay that property tax payment to the water authority. You do not owe anything else, period, right? That's the language in the act. And no other proposal, I've been on LAFCO now for on this advisory committee for a long time. I don't know how long, but it's maybe 5, 6 years, 8 years, all right. There's no other proposal I know that we went through and we said, hey, what are the rules, right? And here's the rules. They're clear. Everyone agrees they're clear, but let's do something ourselves, right? And so if this was the other way around, if the act prescribed a very high fee and Fallbrook and Rainbow came in and said, hey, this act prescribes a high fee, but LAFCO is too high, will you make it lower? We would have gotten no traction, right? Because we're Fallbrook and Rainbow. And the reality of this is the only reason we're talking about a fee on this is because it's Fallbrook and Rainbow versus the Water Authority. In the politics of Fallbrook and Rainbow, those from agencies that are out there, we struggle with our ability to do local control, to have a voice. That's why LAFCO is important. That's what LAFCO is here for, is saying, not really what's in it for my district, right? There's all kinds of stuff that comes in front of us. And you go, well, there's some cost to us, right? There's other people doing projects right now, East County project, Pure Water project. Those cost Fallbrook and Rainbow, right? But we weren't opposed to them. We didn't sue you on CEQA just because we didn't want to pay more for it, because we go, hey, it's the right thing. There is a net cost impact. That's, we're here to look at what's the right thing for the agency, not does this cost me some amount of money. We did try to work with the Water Authority at the beginning, as Tom talked. I'm actually not that hard to work with. I've been able to develop agreements on a lot of things. I'm usually pretty reasonable to work with. There was no traction on that. There's none. There was no ability to go anywhere. That relationship's broken. The relationship between Fallbrook, Rainbow, and the Water Authority is broken. Right? When Mr. Haddam talked, there was nothing in there expressing any concern for Fallbrook and Rainbow, which are still member agencies of the Water Authority. Right? We still are. He still represents us as much as he represents the Water Authority. And so the only option, we're both on the board. We're on 2% of the vote. My voice on that board really doesn't make any difference, right? The only option that exists for us as an entity is to leave per the act. That's the position we're in. And why are we doing this? It's because of agriculture. That is the primary driver on this whole thing. That is the biggest challenge for our districts. The Water Authority has this vision of our demands growing. That's not what's happening. And you're seeing it this year, right? Our demands, it looked like, oh, maybe they went up a little bit when it didn't rain at all. Now that it's rained, you're seeing our demands have been on a long-term declining trend. Agriculture is continuing to go away in our service areas. And you will see our net demand when there is no agriculture is very small. And so this cost impact you're looking at is actually quite high that you're asking us to pay because it's based on past demands, which isn't what's happening. That's not the future for either of us. Those demands are declining. What this is about is trying to not get to this floor of no ag in Fallbrook and Rainbow. That's really what drives this item. And so, really, when we talk about taking this rate increase and putting it across the remaining member agencies, the other assumption in there is the Water Authority can do nothing. They have no choice. If they have reduced revenue, their expenses are their expenses. They can do nothing. They can, right? They have water supply contracts. There are options to go out and look at alternatives to reduce those commitments, to reduce their cost of water. Both Tom and I on the board have been bringing this up for 5 years or more. That is an option. They can offset the cost. They don't need to be, indefinite costs that just spread to everyone else. And I really just asked sort of for two things for LAFCO to consider on this. One is put forward the option. I know it's not going to be the recommendation, but at least for the commission that, hey, if we just follow the act purely, if us LAFCO, there is an option where we say, hey, there's a principal act, it's pretty clear, right? That act basically prescribes continued payment of property taxes, essentially, no commitment there. This is an option, right? At least lay that out as an option for the commission, just to follow straightforward the principal act of the Water Authority. So that's my one suggestion or hope. At least that could be in there as a possible option for the commission to consider. The other that becomes important is, if we are going to get charged an exit fee and you are going to use the revenue number is based on 2020 or 2022 revenues. The savings is based on a 2010 number, right? So if you're going to do that, use the same time period. The pump station's 40 million. It's not our number, right? I could actually tell you why it's higher than that because there's some assumptions in there in terms of using Fallbrook infrastructure that aren't guaranteed. That number could actually be higher. We're saying at least use the number that the Water Authority gave you to start with. So that, it is $40 million. They save. If we leave, they don't spend $40 million. If you're looking at revenue impact, lost revenue and savings, those add up to what the savings are. So at least use the number for the right time period. And so I really appreciate, the efforts of staff on this, and really those are my, two takeaways that hopefully will get considered as the report gets finalized. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Beebe. All right, and I guess I will wrap it up. Obviously, this is an adversarial issue. It's been going on for 3 years. I actually understand both sides. If I were GM of the two entities, I'd be looking for savings for my ratepayers. On the opposite end, being a GM of an entity that has the potential to be affected, don't tread on me. I have an obligation to protect my ratepayers, which is one of the reasons why I think what Mr. Lau mentioned about the net effect on the member agencies, including that in the report, maybe an assumption that whatever the exit feedback to the Water Authority, if they actually allocated it back to the member agencies, pro rata to what we actually have paid, it's some kind of formula to see what the net effect is. Because obviously the 5-year time frame, you're assuming that water sales are going to rebound by then, right? And so I think the net effect is very important. I'm not going to opine on the options presented. I think each of us needs to go back to our home agencies and opine on those. But one of the things that I did hear consistently from every member is that the report was thoughtful, it was concise, and it was fair, and it was cumulative of 3 years of Herculean effort. So thank you very much for that. I would also go to what Mr. Scalzetti said about finding a way to work this out. And for the Water Authority and for both the proponents, one of these three options is likely to be selected somewhere in the summer timeframe. And so between now and that timeframe is an opportunity to maybe find something that you could work out. I know Mr. Lewinger is listening. He is the chair of the detachment committee at the Water Authority. And I do suggest one more go-round with the proponents before, because there's risk with all of these
Can we
options.
conscript you to join us in that meeting?
I would be happy to. I have lots of ideas. With that, I do want to thank all the thoughtful comment today and conclude this item. I thank you for the input. Keen did tell me we have a hard stop and we're past it. So item 4C and 4D, they will provide a committee an email to the committee after today's meeting to kind of go over that. Yes, did you have a question, Mr. Oliver? Oh, you were just concurring? Okay, thank you. All right, with that, any other comments before we conclude the meeting today? No? All right, thank you all for the participation. We are done.